She was Hollywood's ideal nanny, but she had a secret she maintained for 60 years behind her flawless smile. Julie Andrews, now 89, is finally speaking out about what truly happened when she lost her well-known voice, the terrible surgical error that ended her career, the truth about her marriage to Blake Edwards, and the devastating admission of her greatest regrets. You'll be shocked to learn what she has been keeping hidden for so long. Julie Andrews was born on October 1, 1935, as Julia Elizabeth Wells. Barbara Ward Morris, her mother, had previously aspired to be a theatrical performer and was a gifted pianist. Edward Charles Wells, her father, was a schoolteacher. The start of World War II brought an end to their marriage. Barbara married Ted Andrews in 1943, a vaudeville performer of Canadian descent. For young Julie, this marriage was a life-changing event. While entertaining soldiers throughout England, Ted and Barbara exposed Julie to the world of performance and music. She learned a secret that had been concealed from her all of her life when she was 14. She did not have Edward Wells as her biological father. He was Julie's biological father, and her mother had an affair with a family acquaintance. Her relationship with Edward Wells remained unchanged despite the devastating revelation. For the remainder of his life, she stayed beside him. Her musical training was greatly aided by Ted Andrews, her stepfather. It didn't take him long to understand that her voice was exceptional. She had a vocal range well above that of most kids her age, and her pitch was flawless. His role as her first instructor helped mold her into a performer. She came from a family of musicians and performers. A dance school was run by her Aunt Joan. Another family member performed at concerts. Julie has always been surrounded by people who are passionate about the arts. Early indications of her talent were not surprising. She began receiving official training at the age of 8. A well-known concert soprano named Madame Lillian Styles Allen was her first teacher. According to Styles Allen, Julie was a once-in-a-lifetime talent. She frequently asserted that Julie was the reincarnation of one of the 19th century's best opera singers, Adelina Patti. She received rigorous training. Her emphasis was on emotional expression and flawless diction. "The amateur works until he can get it right" was a proverb she frequently repeated to Julie. "The expert keeps working until he can't make a mistake." Julie diligently trained after taking these remarks seriously. Styles Allen taught us hard lessons. Julie went to Leeds by herself from London to attend them. In a residence with gas lamps, she remained in a chilly room. She enjoyed every moment in spite of the challenging circumstances. She spent her evenings with her tutor sipping homemade ginger beer and hearing tales of great musicians. She developed her discipline and voice throughout this time. She remained with Styles Allen until 1954, when she relocated to the United States. Julie's first significant break came when she was barely 12 years old. She debuted professionally on October 22, 1947, in the musical revue Starlight Roof at the London Hippodrome. She sang the difficult aria from the opera Mignon, Je suis Titania. The crowd was in disbelief. The audience gave her a standing ovation. She was able to hold a stage like a seasoned performer at the age of 12. Over the course of the more than year-long production, Julie rose to prominence as the youngest prima donna in Britain. She gave a performance at the London Palladium's Royal Command Variety Performance in 1948 for King George VI and Queen Elizabeth. The girl was only 13. The event had never had a single act so young. She first encountered Wally Bogue, an American comic who was famous for creating balloon animals on stage, while she was acting in Starlight Roof. He frequently used children as props for his act. Young Julie took the stage one evening and started to sing. The audience thrilled with the fully unplanned moment. It was a brief but memorable moment that demonstrated her innate charisma. Julie was just 13 when she made her formal West End debut in 1948. She played parts in Humpty Dumpty and Aladdin, among other musicals and pantomimes. The role of Cinderella was one of the most significant events of this time. She was more than just a singer, it proved. She was also a talented actor. She distinguished herself from other young actors by bringing humor and charm to a character. She was simultaneously becoming more well-known on television and radio. She was frequently featured on BBC shows such as Educating Archie and Up the Pole. It was because of these experiences that she developed extraordinary comedic timing. She gained confidence and skills that would be essential at such a young age from performing with seasoned entertainers. Later in her professional life. On September 30, 1954, at the Royal Theatre, Julie Andrews made her Broadway debut in The Boyfriend at the age of 19. In the 1920s, she portrayed Polly Brown, a young child who yearned for romance on the French Riviera. Although the production had already achieved success in London, Andrews added a unique touch to the Broadway production. Her voice was easy and crisp, and she was hard to ignore due to her charm. The critics paid attention. She received the 1955 Theatre World Award for Outstanding Broadway Debut. A number of influential people were also drawn to her performance. The character of Eliza Doolittle, a Cockney flower girl who changes into a refined woman, was the one the producers of My Fair Woman were searching for. They needed someone capable of handling the parts that required a lot of emotional depth and songs. The Broadway production debuted on March 15, 1956, with Andrews landing the role. On stage, the audience witnessed her change from rough and unpolished to elegant and exquisite night after night. I Could Have Danced All Night and Wouldn't It Be Loverly were among the songs that quickly became hits. At the time, it was one of Broadway's longest-running musicals, having lasted for 2,717 performances. For her first Tony Award, Andrews received a nomination for Best Actress in a Musical. She wasn't Eliza's first pick, though, as many people are unaware. A more well-known performer, Mary Martin, was first offered the part, but she declined. That choice altered Andrews' life. Hollywood had other ideas when it came to adapt My Fair Lady into a film, despite her triumph. They decided on Audrey Hepburn instead of Andrews. It was a contentious choice. Another singer dubbed Hepburn's voice, although Andrews had demonstrated that she could sing the songs perfectly. The part should have gone to Andrews, according to many, but she went on to something even more significant. On December 3, 1960, she played Queen Guinevere in the musical Camelot, which was based on the mythical kingdom of King Arthur. She shared the stage with Robert Goulet from Lancelot and Richard Burton from Arthur. There was romance, heartbreak, and drama in the show. Andrews' performance was sophisticated and nuanced, elevating Guinevere above the status of a romantic interest. For Best Actress in a Musical, she received yet another Tony nomination. During this period, Camelot was associated with John F. Kennedy's presidency. Following his 1963 assassination, his widow, Jacqueline Kennedy, linked his leadership to the tale of King Arthur's realm, describing it as a single, fleeting glimmering moment known as Camelot. As a result of Andrews' contribution, the musical acquired a completely new significance. Andrews had already branched out from Broadway before Hollywood approached. In a live broadcast of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella on CBS on March 31, 1957, she played the lead. This was not an existing musical that was remade. It was written with television in mind. More than 107 million viewers, or more than half of the U.S. population at the time, tuned in. It was an enormous success. The songs became favorites, and Andrews' performance was heartwarming and enchanting. She was nominated for Best Single Performance by an Actress at the Primetime Emmys. She was prepared for the cinema by 1964. The ideal actress to play Mary Poppins was someone Walt Disney had been looking for. He wanted someone with a strong presence, a hint of mischief, and a lovely singing voice. It was all Andrews's. After its August 27, 1964, premiere, the movie made $31 million at the box office and was an overwhelming success. Her performance was perfect. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious and A Spoonful of Sugar are two examples of songs that have become iconic. In 1965, Andrews took home the Best Actress Oscar at the 37th Academy Awards. Not only did she win, but she also defeated Audrey Hepburn, the actress who had portrayed her in My Fair Lady, making it a pivotal occasion. The victory demonstrated that Hollywood had misjudged her. Even bigger was her next movie. March 2, 1965, saw the debut of The Sound of Music. With $286 million made globally, it became one of the highest-grossing movies ever. Maria von Trapp was portrayed by her as a young nun who becomes a governess and uses music to transform the life of an Austrian family. Andrews gave Maria a genuine, compassionate, resilient, and joyful vibe in the movie, which was based on a true event. She twirls on a mountaintop in the opening shot, which was both aesthetically spectacular and extremely challenging to film. She was repeatedly knocked to the ground by the wind from the helicopter's blades while it took the picture. Afterwards, she made a joke about getting crushed into the grass after each take. In addition to winning 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, the movie made Andrews one of Hollywood's most marketable celebrities. However, there was a challenge to success. Now that she had portrayed 2 adored nannies consecutively, many were afraid she would be stereotyped. She was aware that she needed to prove she was capable. She had a very different role in Emily's Americanization later in 1964, in contrast to James Garner. This film, which was set in World War II, was a scathing and occasionally sinister look at war and patriotism. Playing Emily Barham was Andrews. An American naval officer wins over a British widow. She demonstrated that she could do more than just musicals in her first significant dramatic role. Alfred Hitchcock's Cold War thriller Torn Curtain followed. Released on July 14, 1966, the movie starred Andrews and Paul Newman. To secure success at the box office, Universal Pictures insisted on hiring two well-known actors. Hitchcock, though, wasn't totally happy. The brutal spy story he planned to tell was allegedly too polished for both stars. The movie was a commercial success despite receiving mixed reviews. It made $13 million worldwide on a $3 million budget. The following year, Andrews faced Hawaii, an epic historical drama based on the book by James Meichner. The movie, which had the largest budget of any movie at the time at $15 million, was released on October 10, 1966. With $34.5 million in domestic receipts, it became the year's highest-grossing film. Andrews portrayed Jerusha Bromley Hale, a 19th-century woman who travels to Hawaii with her missionary husband. Filming was challenging. Continuous delays resulted from the crew dealing with heavy rainfall and even tidal wave warnings. Notwithstanding the difficulties, the movie received 7 nominations for Academy Awards. One of the most surprising results of Hawaii was the attention that Jocelyn Lagarde, a new actress, received for her role as a Hawaiian queen. She had never performed before, but her performance earned her a Golden Globe. Lagarde's performance became one of the most talked about aspects of the movie, despite Andrews playing the lead. Julie Andrews was one of Hollywood's brightest stars. She became famous with Mary Poppins, 1964, and became a legend after The Sound of Music, 1965. She was charming, talented, and well-liked by her audience. By the late 1960s, however, things began to shift. Her career was almost over after 2 films. In 1968, Star was the first. A well-known theater actress named Gertrude Lawrence was the subject of this high-budget biography. The movie featured a lot of positive aspects. The director of The Sound of Music, Robert Wise, was in command. The budget was enormous, $14 million, which was a significant sum at the time. But something went wrong. Andrews' performance was criticized for being overly dramatic and forced. Variety even referred to it as overdone hoydenishness, which is a severe critique for someone who was known for her easy charm. The movie was a complete failure. In Hollywood history, it turned out to be one of the most costly failures. Darling Lily, which was directed by her husband Blake Edwards, followed in 1970. This movie had even more issues. The budget skyrocketed to $25 million since the reshoots took forever. Andrews attempted to change who she was. It was her first time using profanity on screen. She shocked spectators who had previously viewed her as a wholesome figure by performing a striptease in one scene. However, it failed. It was a failure. It failed to resonate with audiences. And the setback was so significant that it ended her career as the leading musical star in Hollywood. Oddly, Andrews was nominated for a Golden Globe for both films in spite of failures. Although she continued to be respected, the situation remained the same. She needed to change if she wanted to remain relevant in Hollywood, which was changing. Then she looked at the TV. She introduced the Julie Andrews Hour, a variety show that allowed her to display her skills outside of musicals, in 1972. Because of their strong belief in her, ABC offered her a 5-year deal, which was unusual at the time. September 13, 1972, was the launch date of the show. Comedy and special guests were included, along with musical songs from her Broadway and movie careers. Critics praised it. Her charm was acknowledged. Not only her singing skills but also her voice. However, the results of the ratings were different. The show competed with other popular programs when it aired on Wednesday nights. It had trouble attracting a large enough following. It ended in April 1973 after only 24 episodes in one season on ABC. Then an unforeseen circumstance occurred. A month later, the Julie Andrews Hour won the most Emmys. It received nominations for 7 of 10 awards, including Outstanding Variety Musical Series. Even when the show won awards, it had already ended. ABC gave Andrews 5 variety shows from 1973 to 1975 to compensate for the cancellation. It was evident, yet it was a minor comfort. There was no television in her future. She made an unexpected turn when she needed a new direction. She started going to clubs. For the most adored governess and nanny in the world, this was a surprising decision. She did it precisely for that reason, even though nightclubs were more known for edgy comedians and jazz singers than former Disney stars. She had to overcome her previous self-perception. These performances revealed a different side of Andrews. She performed jazz standards, joked about Hollywood, and even made fun of her previous roles. She wasn't merely a musical theater star in the eyes of the audience. She was clever, elegant, and adaptable. She was commended by critics for her ability to transition between jazz arrangements and Broadway ballads. The appearances at the nightclubs were a new beginning for her career. Then she returned to box office triumph after almost 10 years. In 1979, she starred in Blake Edwards' romantic comedy 10, which also starred Bo Derek and Dudley Moore. With a U.S. box office total of nearly $74 million, the movie was an enormous success. It was just what Andrews required. She went on to make 2 more daring movies. The first was S.O.B., a spoof on Hollywood that came out in 1981. Andrews surprised viewers by showing up topless in one scene, which was unexpected of her. It made a statement. She was demonstrating that she was not constrained by her previous image and that she could take chances. Then followed 1982's Victor Victoria, the movie that really changed her career. She played Victoria Grant, a poor vocalist who works as a male impersonator in Parisian nightclubs under the alias Count Victor Grzinski. It was a revolutionary function. It examined sexuality and gender identity in ways that Hollywood had not often done before. Previously familiar with her as Maria von Trapp, audiences now saw her in a bold and nuanced role. The movie was a critical and financial triumph, taking home $28 million in the U.S. For Best Actress in a Comedy or Musical, Andrews took home the Golden Globe. She also received a nomination for Best Actress at the Academy Awards. 7 Oscar nominations were given to the movie itself. More significantly, it altered how Andrews was perceived by others. She was no longer the charming governess with the voice. Her range was considerable. She could play unexpected, daring parts. For Julie Andrews, stardom was never the only thing in her life. Behind her achievements was a woman who built a renowned career while juggling personal problems, heartbreak, and love. Tony Walton, a set and costume designer who had idolized her since she was a young girl, was her husband in 1959. At age 11, Walton saw her perform, which is how they first met. After several years, their friendship blossomed into love. Their marriage was a creative union. For one of Andrews's most well-known movies, Mary Poppins, Walton even created the outfits. Emma Walton Hamilton, their daughter, was born in 1962. Success had a price, yet life appeared to be ideal. Andrews traveled between Hollywood and Broadway on a regular basis. They got divorced in 1967 as a result of the strain of distance. The separation left Andrews emotionally spent. She made a life-altering decision by going to therapy. She paid attention when director Mike Nichols urged her to get therapy. She described therapy as a way to deal with the junk and congestion in her head. She gained strength and clarity to continue. Years later, she talked candidly about mental health in the hopes that her experience might inspire others. Shortly after her divorce, she happened to run across director Blake Edwards outside a therapist's office. Later, Edwards described it as a lovely Hollywood moment. They connected immediately. Having experienced unsuccessful marriages, they both turned to one another for solace. Their friendship deepened despite their 13-year age difference. They were wed by 1969. Their existence together combined a strong sense of personal connection with Hollywood glitz. They adopted 2 Vietnamese daughters, Amy and Joanna, in the middle of the 1970s, and Andrews became the stepmother of Edwards' children. Professionally, they collaborated on 7 films, such as Victor, Victoria, 1982, and S.O.B., 1981. Darling Lily and other projects had box office setbacks, but their bond held firm. Andrews frequently said that Edwards' sense of humor equaled her. His death in 2010 ended their 41-year marriage. She continued to refer to their union as a true love story even after his passing. Her professional life evolved together with her personal life. In That's Life, the 1980s presented fresh difficulties. She portrayed a singer in 1986 who might have cancer. At that time, physicians discovered a lesion on her throat, therefore the part was personal. Aging, relationships, and fear of the unknown were all topics covered in the movie. In the same year, she played a well-known violinist with multiple sclerosis in the film Duet for One. It was an intense and unvarnished account. She was able to collaborate with Liam Neeson as well, whose powerful performance deepened the film. She was nominated for Golden Globes for both parts, demonstrating that she was more than just a musical star. Andrews began investigating television in the 1990s. She played a TV personality who settles down in a rural village after marrying a veterinarian in the 1992 sitcom Julie. The show, which Blake Edwards directed, was never seen by anyone. Only 7 episodes later, it was cancelled. Despite the series' difficulties, Andrews was successful elsewhere. The Sound of Christmas, directed by Julie Andrews, took home 5 Emmys in 1987. She and Carol Burnett got back together in 1989 for Julie and Carol. She reminded everyone why she was a celebrity in 1990 when she played in Julie Andrews. She returned to Broadway in style after a 30-year hiatus. Putting It Together, a Stephen Sondheim review about relationships and regrets, starred her in 1993. Despite only having 59 performances, the off-Broadway play had a significant return. She starred in Victor, Victoria, a Broadway version of her 1982 movie, 2 years later. Victoria Grant was her role. The female impersonator is a woman who poses as a guy. The production ran for more than 700 performances and was a huge success. She was nominated for Victor Victoria at the Tony Awards that same year. But she took a risk after realizing she was the only cast member acknowledged. She turned down the nomination. It was neither pride nor resentment. The whole cast, she felt, should be honored. It was a unique occasion in Broadway history, but it demonstrated Andrews' character. After 37 years away from Disney, Julie Andrews made a comeback with The Princess Diaries in 2001. She portrayed Anne Hathaway's character, Queen Clarice Rinaldi, a regal grandmother mentoring her awkward granddaughter. Gary Marshall, the director, knew she was ideal for the part and cast her without holding an audition. After winning an Academy Award for Mary Poppins in 1964, this was her first Disney movie. One of her most cherished roles was Queen Clarice, which she played with comedy and warmth. Although she claimed Hathaway didn't require much direction, she did coach Hathaway on set. The movie got popular, generating $165 million globally. Despite having surgery in 1997 that left her without a complete singing voice, Andrews even had a rare singing moment in The Princess Diaries 2, Royal Engagement, 2004. She provided Queen Lillian's voice in Shrek 2, 2004 that same year. She portrayed the lovely and devoted queen who was Fiona's mother. In contrast to other animated movies, she filmed scenes with John Cleese, which enhanced the authenticity of their on-screen relationship. Andrews returned to her role in Shrek the Third, 2007, and Shrek Forever After, 2010, as the Shrek franchise became a worldwide phenomenon. She provided the narrator for the 2007 Disney movie Enchanted, which blended fairy stories with reality. Her voice established the enchanted atmosphere, connecting traditional and contemporary Disney narratives. Over $340 million was made worldwide. In the humorous film Tooth Fairy, 2010, she portrayed Lily, the top fairy who leads Dwayne Johnson's character through an awkward magical punishment. With a $112 million box office haul, the movie demonstrated that Andrews was still a talented actor in fun family movies. She oversaw a stage adaptation of My Fair Lady in 2016 to commemorate the show's 60th anniversary. The production made its stage debut in the Sydney Opera House and went on tour in several locations. By recreating the sets and costumes using archival designs, she made sure it paid homage to the original. The show earned great reviews and set box office records. She co-founded and served as host of Julie's Green Room, a Netflix educational series that teaches kids about the performing arts, in 2017. Celebrities like Idina Menzel and Alec Baldwin were guests on the show. The series was co-produced by her daughter, Emma Walton Hamilton, so it was a family endeavor. The program received 2 nominations for Daytime Emmys. There was something magical about Julie Andrews' voice. She made Mary Poppins and the music sound unforgettable with her 4-octave soprano. But by 1995, there was a problem. During her Broadway performance of Victor Victoria, her voice began to strain. It was merely hoarseness at first, the kind that goes away with rest. This time, however, it didn't. By 1997, a lesion on her vocal cords was discovered by the doctors. Some referred to them as non-cancerous nodules. Some claimed it was a harmless polyp. Years of singing had worn it down, however. Despite the doctor's advice to rest, she was looking for a practical solution. She had surgery at New York's Mount Sinai Hospital in June 1997. Removing the lesion and restoring her voice was meant to be a simple, quick treatment. It permanently altered her life instead. Her vocal cords were permanently scarred after the procedure. Scar tissue prevented them from vibrating as they should have. Her strong, clear voice was vanished. It became hard to even talk. Vocal cord procedures were less sophisticated in those days. Some people used forceps. Others used lasers. The risk of scarring was high for both. Later, Andrews claimed that she had never received a complete warning about the risks. Blake Edwards, her husband, discussed the incident in public in 1998. He confirmed her greatest fear: she will never sing again. It was like losing a piece of herself when she lost her voice. She took action and sued the two surgeons in Mount Sinai Hospital for malpractice in December 1999. She maintained that she was never informed of the true hazards and that the operation had destroyed her performance. Even though the matter was quietly settled in September 2000 for an unknown sum, the harm could not be repaired. For the following few years, she looked for solutions. She underwent several therapies and 4 further procedures with Dr. Stephen Zeitels at Massachusetts General Hospital starting in 2000. Her spoken voice improved somewhat as a result, but her singing voice never returned. She shifted her attention to assisting others in 2002. With the help of specialists at Harvard Medical School and MIT, she promoted fresh studies on vocal repair. Researchers were investigating tissue engineering and laser technology as ways to repair injured vocal cords. She prayed that someone else could be helped, even if she couldn't. Her refusal to vanish persisted throughout it all. Writing became a new interest for her. A number of children's books were co-written by her and her daughter, Emma Walton Hamilton. Regardless of her accomplishments, however, the loss of her voice remained with her. She has publicly discussed it, referring to it as one of the most devastating heartbreaks she has ever experienced. Even though Julie Andrews can no longer sing, her legacy will endure forever. Her voice will always be remembered by the world.